This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Amari Cooper is a gateway to so many interesting conversations about the Cleveland Browns, where they are now versus where they have been in the past. But the first pathway to one of those interesting conversations with Amari Cooper is to acknowledge that Amari Cooper is most likely the first big name player the Browns acquired since 1999 that has played their best football in Cleveland. Like any other time where the Cleveland Browns get a hold of a player, it's more of a reflection of how a team feels like that player is on a decline or the inflection point of the end of somebody's career. The Browns up until 2020 were pretty much a dysfunctional, bizarre organization. They did not have any bit of their ducks in a row. Like if we traded for somebody like Amari Cooper, most Browns fans with experience would assume that that trade is most likely going to end up like a Jamie Collins situation, then a situation where the Browns trade for a player and get the best out of him. I realize some of you guys might not know what I mean by a Jamie Collins situation, but basically the Browns traded for Jamie Collins, and then Jamie Collins, who was a Pro Bowl player when he got traded here, basically played some of the worst football you ever seen for like 2 years, and then went back to New England and then started to play good football again, simply because he was out of Cleveland. Like getting traded to the Browns for such a long period of time was the equivalent of being put on punishment or grounded for an NFL player. Like we just gonna forget about you for a couple of years and send you to Cleveland. And that's how the Browns were seen across the league. I mean, up until the conclusion of the Odell Beckham situation, who's probably the last player to get tagged with that season, with his career being seriously hindered by being in Cleveland, even though I would argue Odell was really never the same after that preseason ankle injury that he had in New York. And it just so happened that he played most of that football with Cleveland. I don't think that was really a representation of him and the Browns mismanaging him, especially late in his run here. Despite him not being used the best, I don't think he was completely wasted here, or at least set to be completely wasted here. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. There's a reason why Odell Beckham is not on anybody's top 25 list, but Amari Cooper is. Amari Cooper is the exact opposite of all of those moves we talked about before. Amari Cooper was a big name when he came out of Alabama. He was a big name when he played at Oakland. He was a big name when he played for the Dallas Cowboys. And when the Browns traded for him, he was a big name. And now Amari Cooper has played some of the best football of his career and has openly stated his desire to end his career in Cleveland. Again, another marker of the amount of growth this organization has had in the last 4 years. Could you imagine anybody being traded to the Cleveland Browns in 2018 and saying openly they want to end their career in Cleveland? That's a serious question. It's not rhetorical. Like, seriously, who was getting traded here before that was serious and earnest about ending their career in Cleveland? Most people who got traded here understood they just gonna play out their contract and leave. And that was the understanding that we all had. And it really played into how we felt about guys like Odell Beckham or anybody else. There was always this background anxiety that Browns fans had that the second that guy's contract was up, that player was leaving. That was kind of built off the basis of the fact that the Browns had that happen to them quite often. Because they were the Browns, not because the city of Cleveland, like some people like to make it seem like, especially nationally, but because they're the Browns. And now you have Amari Cooper, who has played for the Browns the last 2 years. He's extended not extended. He has restructured his contract for this year, and he's hopeful to end his career in Cleveland. We'll see if he actually gets to do that. But again, Amari Cooper is more of a reflection of the growth that the Browns have made in the last 4 years than anything. And he's the perfect player to embody that because of what he is. Since becoming a Cleveland Brown in the AFC North, Amari Cooper has gotten 2,410 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns in 2 years, which is number one in yards in the AFC North and number two in touchdowns in the AFC North. Only second to Jamar Chase in touchdowns, but above Jamar Chase in total yards over the last couple of years, which might come as a surprise the way that people talk about Amari Cooper and him being, I don't know. I hear a lot of crazy takes about Amari Cooper, and I think that's because Amari Cooper is one of them players. If you don't really pay attention to his tape, you're not going to understand why people like him so much. So he's an easy player to kind of lose out on why he is so good. But Amari Cooper has been able to produce at an extremely high level, arguably the highest amongst all AFC North wide receivers. A lot of times we attribute a term to tight ends that I think is applicable to Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is one of the best safety blankets in the NFL. If you look at how he operated last year with 5 different quarterbacks, right, he was able to bail a lot of those quarterbacks out. And specifically, I'm talking about PJ Walker and Joe Flacco. He really helped those guys out the most, and even with Deshaun Watson as well, or even DTR, which he was probably the least effective with DTR out of all the quarterbacks that he played with. But Amari Cooper was leaned on and really relied on heavily by every quarterback that he played with. And I think that just shows you how good and reliable Amari Cooper is. They literally rode him until the wheels fell off. Both years he's been in Cleveland, right? Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, DTR, PJ Walker. They all rode him till the wheels fall off. And that's why he's so banged up at the end of the year. But let's look at what Amari Cooper does. Let's get into the film breakdown. Let's look at 4 Amari Cooper plays, because I think in these 4 plays, you see that Amari Cooper is capable of doing all the things that you want a 1-tier wide receiver to be capable of, right? I think that's some of the complaints that people have about Amari Cooper is that, oh, he's not 1-tier. He can't do all the things a 1-tier guy can do. I think he is 1-tier. He's not the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's not somebody, I think, who could get $30 million on the open market, but he's still a 1-tier wide receiver. And that's going to be very useful for the Cleveland Browns. Let's go here, right? We're going to see Amari Cooper just be able to win with his feet and his hands on this one, bottom of your screen. Bam, let's run it back. Look at that. Look at that. Sets him up, set up foot, outside plant. Now he got him in a blender because look how close 2 is to his chest. And all he has to do is just run by him. It's excellent route running, right? Excellent setup. Basically set him up, then even have to swing to knock him out. Wide open, catches it, puts a move on the guy. And that's another underrated part of Amari Cooper's game. He's an underrated yak guy, I think, in my opinion, because this ability to put a move on the guy, right? Because a lot of wide receivers, they catch it there, they run out of bounds, right? They get to the 50 and they run out of bounds. Coop puts a move on him, puts a nice little move on him, right? And in that, gets an extra 20 yards, 22 yards out this play. It's underrated thing about Coop, all right? Another area where Coop can win, just straight routes, right? Don't need you to slip, don't need you nothing, just straight routes. Bam, win right there on the corner. Timing, catch it in a window, bam, with contact. Simple stuff, right? Then you got Amari Cooper. Can he get the 50-50? Yes, he can. Even with, who's that, JPJ all over him. Penalty, everything. Can he get the 50? Hey, he can get that 50 right there. 50-50 ball. We're going to see it again here, right? Up here. Can he get a gimme those head top? Yes, he can do that. Amari Cooper is capable of it. Way to stay on his feet. Get his feet in bounds. People tell me Amari Cooper is not a number 1 wide receiver because he can't do the number 1 wide receiver things. But let me tell you something, dog. What in this rotation don't look like number 1 wide receiver stuff? maybe the number one wide receiver things that people want him to do is to wear a grill while he plays and do the gritty every time he gets a first down and dance on the camera and do Corvette and, you know, make some TikToks or something like that. I sound so old right now, but maybe that's what people mean by number one wide receiver stuff, because they damn sure ain't talking about the football if they saying Amari Cooper is not capable of doing the number one wide receiver things. Because when I see him right here, boom, make a man fall, win off contact, catch a deep ball, and then make the safety miss. That sounds like number one wide receiver stuff to me. He ain't got them jets no more, right? He not about to run away from anybody. But you know what? Most wide receivers, even with the jets, like if Elijah Moore caught this, he'd been out at the 50. Cool. Gets all the way to the 32. Nah, 25. My bad. So again, when people tell you Coop doesn't do wide receiver one type things, ask them what they mean by that. Does he not post enough on Instagram for you? Does he not flex enough for you? Do you not like his outfits enough? Is it the tunnel fits that Amari Cooper does not provide you that makes him not a number one wide receiver to you? Because it can't be about the football. The football screams number one wide receiver to me. No, he's not top tier. Sure, I give you that. But he's number one wide receiver. I mean, come on. Just one of the most underrated dudes in the league. And somebody who's been very productive for this Cleveland Browns team. But yeah, I'll let it run again. Maybe he should have hit the dab after this, right? Like he hit the dab after that. Stanky legged a little. Maybe he'd be a number one wide receiver. So maybe we should just tell Amari Cooper, you got to dance more, and post on Instagram and post captions on Twitter and just like, you know, just put who on there and then put some eye emojis on Twitter. Make everybody wonder if he's happy. Maybe that's what Amari Cooper should do. Maybe that's what he should do to improve his status in the league, because the football is good. But y'all have a good one, man. That's it for the film breakdown. Let's jump back to the studio. Now, I want to be clear here. I put Amari Cooper number 4 on this list, but the reason Amari Cooper is number 4 on this list and Nick Chubb isn't like 3 or 2 or 1, or Deshaun Watson isn't 3, 2 or 1 or 4 is because both of those players are still in this realm where I need to see them get to where I need them to get to before I can put them there. And since that's the case, Amari Cooper gets to enjoy a spot in the top 5. That doesn't take away anything from Amari Cooper. He's still a really good player, and he's still really, really valuable to this Cleveland Browns team. He's a number 1 wide receiver. He's your number 1 security blanket. He's the guy that you look for on fourth down. And I remember talking about this last year when I did my expectations videos for the wide receivers. And I was asking the question of, hey, who's going to be the guy that the Browns rely on third down in this wide receiver group? And I think last year proved it to me that that's Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's the guy that you look for. Amari Cooper, you need a big play, throw it to Coop. See what happens. That's going to be his role on this team, and he plays that role pretty well. But that's it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.